right, welcome into this week at Gridiron Icon. This just isn't any week, so we can't just have any guest. If you are part of the Ramley or the Rams house or a Rams fan, you know this guy, Rich Hammond, the senior editor for The Athletic and co-host of 11 Personnel podcast. Also happens to be one of my favorite tweeters. We will get into that. He's a fan of a strong running game and my go-to guy for all things Rams uniform related. Rich, welcome to Gridiron Icon.
That's how I like to be known, Stacy. That'll be in my obituary. He covered uniforms and liked the run game. That's how I want the first paragraph of my obit to read. It's great to be with you.
Thanks, man. Hey, I was going to throw in and body double for George Clooney, but
I think that went without saying. But yeah, I appreciate you not skipping over that. Yeah,
I could not confirm that. I looked everywhere, but I could not confirm it. So
yeah, it's a part of my life I don't like to talk a lot about. So it's
so humble. So humble and modest. Well, welcome in, man. It is a thrill to finally hang out with you as I've been a fan. I follow your work at The Athletic and on 11 Personnel. So this is a good time. I'm going to rapid fire at you because, folks, this is a very special week. It's got to be for you too, Rich. You've got to be in big demand as someone who covers the Rams there in SoCal.
Yeah, it's fun. This is what you do it for. So it's a great week.
What's the vibe like down there? Maybe start there.
Yeah, you can see it. You know, the Rams take a lot of criticism, and it's been tough. You know, everybody sees the games. And the stadium's half filled with 49er fans. It is a process, and I don't think people understand what it was like for LA to go 20 plus years, 23 years without a team. You're talking about generations, multiple generations of people who grew up here without any football teams. They kept following the Raiders, or they became Dallas fans or Green Bay fans, or whatever team was happening to come along that way. You didn't have that passed down from parents to children, taking them to games. All that was gone for 2 decades plus. And it's not going to come back overnight. It's not just the team rolls into town and then all of a sudden, okay, half of the city gets on the bandwagon. It takes time. Things like this, having the Super Bowl in LA, having the Rams here, it's going to pay dividends for years and years to come. And that's what it is. We're going to look back at this Super Bowl and say that was one of the catalysts that really got the Rams going again in this city. It's tough in LA. And I don't say that to brag. I don't say that LA is better than any other city. But when you've got the Dodgers, the Lakers, two teams in every pro sport. You've got USC football setting the world on fire right now. You've got UCLA basketball is one of the top teams in the country. It's really, really hard to get attention here. And the Rams doing what they have done this year, and really over the past 5 years with Sean McVay, it's helping a lot. And it's part of the process, but it's going to be a huge step.
I love it, man. Yeah, as a kid who grew up down there, that's why I'm a diehard Rams fan. I'm now in Portland, Oregon. Doesn't matter. They're my lifeblood. I've loved them my whole life. It's fun to watch this thing build. Interesting take. Not to mention the beaches, Hollywood, all the beautiful people.
Disneyland. I mean, there's so many ways to spend your money, and like a team has to earn it. The team has to earn your money and has to earn your attention. And the Rams have done a great job of that recently.
Yeah, by the looks of the ticket situation and what's going on with fan gear and apparel at the equipment lock and everything, it seems like there's some demand. So here we go. Yeah. Here we go. Well, let's start with no controversy whatsoever, because you are never polarizing or a lightning rod. But let me ask right off the bat, because I've had several people on the show in the last 6-8 months. Look, I'm an unabashed Jared Goff fan. I love the kid. I'm very grateful to him, and I wish him nothing but luck. Mm-hmm. Can the Rams, can a Ram fan, or just from your opinion as someone close to the team, do you think we're here if Jared Goff is still here? And I'm not even sure that's fair, Rich, right? No OBJ, no Von Miller.
Right.
Would we be here?
Yeah, as you might imagine, it's a complicated question. I would start off by saying a lot of people, I think, forget that there's almost like a revisionist history, or even a revisionist amnesia, that a lot of people say, oh, Jared Goff could never get to a Super Bowl. Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl. It literally happened 3 years ago. I mean, this is something that happened. You might not believe it, or might not think he played a part in it, but he got there. So I think that's a little bit unfair to Jared Goff. And by the way, in that NFC Championship game that he played extremely well. He did not get carried to the Super Bowl. He played very, very well in that game. But to answer your question, because I think you're framing it in a way that makes a lot of sense and is smart. And I think the question, I don't want to twist your question or make it into something it's not.
Dropping, or you're buying what I'm selling. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the question is, would Jared Goff quarterback this team to the Super Bowl? And I don't think so. And the reason I would say that is because so much of what the Rams built, what Sean McVay built in 2017 and 2018 was also around a guy named Todd Gurley. And I don't think people forget, but people might even underestimate how he was the key to all of that. You can talk about, Robert Woods, and talk about a great offensive line, talk about Cooper Kupp developing. Everything started and ended with Todd Gurley. And you saw what happened in 2019 when whatever was going on with Todd Gurley's knee took him out of that, and the Rams offense just followed down with him. So I am not saying that Jared Goff was just a product of Todd Gurley. I don't think that's true either. But I think that combination of the two of them, Todd Gurley's success and what he was able to do on the field, put Jared Goff in situations where he could succeed, along with great offensive line play, along with, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, whatever you want to say. This team, I think, is a little bit different because you see Matthew Stafford going out a few more times, even when he doesn't have a very good run game, even sometimes when he doesn't have a run game at all, as I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit. He can do things to put the team on his back that I'm not sure Jared Goff could consistently do. He could do it sometimes, but I'm not sure he could do it every week. And to me, that's the difference. Putting Jared Goff on this team in this offense, I'm not sure would be the right formula. But that doesn't make it Jared Goff any less of a quarterback. That doesn't mean I don't think he can win games or that he can be a playoff quarterback. I just don't think he gets to the Super Bowl with this particular offense.
That's a fair assessment, man. I very well stated and balanced. Yeah, I think there's a lot of emotions with Jared Goff, good and bad for everyone. But yeah, that's a really good take. And it's strange that we even compare them, right? That team was so different. Brandon Cooks, Todd Gurley, and Gurley, arguably the best, at least top 3 players in the league that year.
Right.
And for him to get injured, which is just, it absolutely guts me because I wish Todd was experiencing this. But good takes, and I don't think it takes anything away from Jared and Matt. So I'm going to segue right into a favorite subject that has been kind of a breadcrumb trail all year, and that's with Coach McVay. And I think it's fair for us to say we both greatly appreciate. I am so happy that Sean's here. I couldn't be more happy to have what he's done here in this city for this team. How have you seen him grow this season? And particularly because there was some ebbs and flows, but since the last Super Bowl as well, you're there at ground zero. How has Sean grown?
Yeah, a lot of it has been, in some ways, I think you could say he's grown in terms of what he's allowed his defensive coordinators to do. Just to start with, I'll talk a lot about the offense too. But turning things over first to Brandon Staley. And saying, I'm going to trust in you, this young guy who's never been a defensive coordinator before. I'm going to trust you to come in and totally revamp our defense after it was run very competently by Wade Phillips. I'm going to bring in this young guy who's never run his own staff before, and I'm going to trust him to do this stuff. I think that showed a lot of growth. I think that showed growth as a leader. As somebody who wasn't going to micromanage things or just bring in somebody who was going to, keep the status quo. So I give him credit there. I give him credit in particular this year for what he's done with the offense. I think 2020 was a mistake, and I'm not sure it was entirely of Sean's doing or his making. They seemed to kind of try to split the baby last year in terms of they knew they had some deficiencies. Some of the play at quarterback, the running back situation where it wasn't quite where they wanted it to be. And they tried some half measures that just didn't It didn't end up working. They tried to bring it along and just like, maybe we can coax this offense and do some things, and it just didn't work. And I understand why they tried. I understand. But then this year they made the big swing. Obviously, you make the huge trade at quarterback. You bring in Matthew Stafford. I think it gave Sean an opportunity to just reevaluate the entire thing on offense and say, what do we want to get back to? What can we get back to? What elements can we add that we weren't able to do before? So I think he took a little bit of a step backward in 2020. And again, I don't blame him entirely for that. Some of it is personnel. Some of it is just bad luck. But I think he did a great job during this particular offseason of looking at his personnel, looking at Matthew Stafford and saying, how can we build this thing the right way? And he wasn't stubborn about it, as coaches can be. So I give him a lot of credit there. To your point, Stacey, like, and I'm glad you said it that way, because people sometimes get on, and I have to watch it too, because I will say a lot of things critical of Sean McVay, but it's the standard. And I don't think I've never asked Sean about this, but if the next time I talk to him, I don't think he would mind that. I don't think he would mind people dissecting things that he does, because he holds himself to a very high standard. And the standard isn't perfection. Nobody's perfect. But you assess him as a great coach, and you assess these Rams as a great team. That's the standard. And that's what you measure them on. So, and I've told people, and it does bear repeating or saying sometimes, for every one negative thing that you say about Sean McVay, you can say 5 positive things. And sometimes
Absolutely.
It's difficult to forget. It's easy to forget that. Sometimes it's difficult in the moment to look at the positive things because you expect them to be positive. But it's absolutely true that any negatives we talk about or anything that needed to be improved, you would take it 7 days a week because of the good things that he brings.
Oh yeah, it's just unbelievable what he's done. I have to say that's got to be newer fans or a newer fan base who haven't endured 20 years of just straight misery. And here comes this guy in his early 30s who's just, let's talk about that. I mean, his coaches, how long can our team, the Rams, continue to have their brightest minds pilfered from the coaching? Right? How long? That alone, when you look at Sean McVay, is unbelievable that he reloads. He just reloads.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It is, and it's a look. No team, no organization is one person, and that's certainly not the case with the Rams either. But you do look at a Sean McVay, and a lot of what's happened there has been the culture that he's created. And culture is a weird word because you can't really define it. It doesn't have. I can't identify a tangible thing and say that's the culture of the Rams. But you just have to be around it and be in it. And it extends to the players when you talk about how they can bring in so many different guys, how they can bring in Von Miller in the middle of the season, how they can bring in Odell, how they can have this, revolving door at safety that they have, all of these things. And why does that work? It works in large part because that's the culture that's been established there. And it extends to the coaches. It's not the assistant coaches making or breaking what's going on here. It's the assistant coaches coming in, buying into that culture, into that mindset, and then bringing the skills that they bring. And it's Sean knowing, I think, what his staff needs. You don't just go out there and cherry pick who you think is the best coordinator or the best position coach. You look at personalities and you look at your own staff and say, what do I need? Do I need a little bit of a cheerleader? Do I need a little bit of a guy who's going to crack the whip? Do I need, the uncle who's going to, give him a hug? Like, what do I need here? And that's a part of it. And I think he's done a good job throughout all of this turnover of replacing those things. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. And I really they did a good job this year. But the pandemic year, we're still in a pandemic year, but the 2020 year, when they bring in the new defensive coaches and they didn't even have OTAs, they didn't have they installed their defense on Zoom, basically, which is just it's extraordinary that they were able to do that. So it's a challenge. There is a certain amount of brain drain that goes on there. I think obviously the Rams are losing Kevin O'Connell. I think that's less of a hurdle than losing Raheem Morris, quite frankly, not because I think one coach is better than the other, but if they lost Raheem Morris, that would be yet another defensive coordinator. You'd go from Wade Phillips in 2019 to Brandon Staley in 2020 to Raheem Morris in 2021 and then to somebody else in 2022. That can weigh on you. That can get difficult. So I think losing Kevin O'Connell, yeah, he did great things. He did great work with Matthew Stafford. It's still very much Sean McVay's offense. So whoever he brings in as his offensive coordinator, it's still going to be in following Sean and what he does. I think having that consistency at defensive coordinator for at least one more year, we think probably. You never know what can happen during an offseason.
Stay, Raheem. Stay.
Yeah, assuming Raheem comes back, I think that's big to have that for a second season.
Yeah, great points, Rich. I'll tell you, to your point, I hadn't thought about it till you mentioned it, but that comment on culture, anywhere you live in corporate America, teams, I don't care where you are, it's so nuanced. And have you ever seen another team where you can let two fathers go in Wade Phillips and Aaron Cromer, but keep their sons on your staff and everybody's vibing?
Yeah, that is wild. Yeah. It's and it speaks to what happened there. And both of those guys I know were disappointed. Wade did not want to leave.
It's natural.
Yeah, Aaron Cromer didn't. Whatever happened there, it wasn't his choosing to just walk away. So yeah, but it wasn't acrimonious. And I also think that speaks to culture too. It wasn't anything where it was like a terrible divorce where your guys are bickering in the public or on Twitter or whatever. So yeah, I think that speaks to it also.
It's just amazing. Okay, switching gears on you here. Let's talk about this offense. We can't say too much about Twitter world or tweeting because we all know everybody's emotional when that's going on. But what do you think it is about this team, particularly surrounding Matthew Stafford, that has gotten them to what makes this guy special, aside from just the obvious, he's talented?
The one thing that's really impressed me about Matthew Stafford, and I mean, obviously we've all watched him for a decade in Detroit and seen what he can do on some pretty bad teams, really bad teams often. But the one thing I really didn't appreciate watching him from afar was how he could bring himself back during a game. And a lot of quarterbacks, and I think this was, and again, I can say a lot of nice things about Jared Goff, but one of the things that you could see from Jared Goff is you could watch him, generally speaking, I'm not saying 100% of the time, but generally speaking, you could watch Jared in the first quarter of the game and say, it's going to be one of those games, either a really good game or a really bad game. And whatever he showed you early on, again, most of the time was generally what you were going to get for 4 quarters. And the thing that's impressed me about Matthew Stafford is I think he has this ability to reset himself somehow. And it's hard to do. He can have a first quarter where sometimes he's a little bit wobbly. You watch a couple of his first 2 series, his first 2 drives, and you think, oh man, a couple of those passes, they look pretty off target. and you start to think, like, is it just going to be one of those days when he's just not going to be on it today and not going to have it today? And then he's able to flip that switch somehow. I don't know how. I don't think you can teach that to somebody. I don't think you can write down how it works. It's just somebody who has the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to walk off the field. That was a terrible sequence. I just made a terrible throw, but when I get back out there, I'm just going to leave it behind me. And every quarterback says that. That's the goal for every quarterback to do that. Oh, I'm not worried about that mistake. I'm moving on. But it's really hard to do. And I don't think realize how Matthew Stafford was able to do that. He can be bad for 2 quarters or 2.5 quarters, and you think, oh my goodness, this guy isn't going to do it. And then he's able to just turn it on and find that switch. So that's so important. That's so important because you're not going to be perfect for 4 quarters. And you have to be able to have the right mindset if a game is on the line in the fourth quarter. And, as we've seen a couple times already in the playoffs, he can do that. He hasn't had great games, but when they've needed him in the fourth quarter or at the end of games, he's been there. And I think you can't underestimate that, and you can't teach it.
God, love it. And he's so, it's resiliency.
Resilience,
I love it. He's just something else. So Pro Football Focus, those guys ranked this Bengals secondary as number 11. Are these guys going to be able to hang with the Rams wide receiver group? Eli Apple? I mean,
not if they have, not if Matthew Stafford has time. No. And I mean, that's the key to me. I mean, you look at the secondary, and I think, no, you look at the matchups, and that's not where they're going to win it. The Bengals, if they win it, that's certainly not where they're going to win it. They're going to win it with some of the havoc that they can cause up front. And they've done a good job throughout these playoffs of being, I don't want to say unpredictable. That's not the right word, but they've been kind of shape-shifting in what they do, depending on who they're playing. I mean, their defensive game plan for Tennessee was obviously very different than the one for Kansas City. You couldn't ask for any different teams than the Titans trying to run the ball down your throat and Kansas City trying to throw it over your head the entire game. But they were able to adjust and do very well against both of those offenses. So if I'm the Rams, that's what causes me the most concern. It's not so much what they're going to do in the back end, and they're going to be flying around and making plays and, blanketing your receivers and that sort of thing. No, that's not really what would concern me. It would be, what can we handle them up front? Can we give Matthew Stafford the time that he needs? Can we roll him out if necessary to find him some time and space, and then able to take advantage of some of those mismatches that we're talking about in the secondary. So yeah, if they can do that, and it's not going to be easy, but if the Rams can do that, then there are certainly some matchups there that they can take advantage of.
Yeah. So what's your concern taking it a step further? Because the Bengals have been impressive how they shapeshifted. I like that. I'm stealing that. What's your concern level that we're going up against Zach Taylor and how well he knows Sean McVay?
Yeah, there is some of that. And I would say, on the other hand, it goes a little bit to what we were talking about before of how much this offense has changed. I mean, Zach Taylor, he was in the room, every day, talking to Sean every day, seeing the game planning stuff every week. But this is not the 2019 Rams anymore, or the 2018 Rams. I mean, this is a very different way that they attack you. So from that perspective, I don't think he's sitting there like, oh, I've got it. I know exactly what they're going to do. If anything, I think it might go the other way, where Sean McVay knows a lot about Zach Taylor and maybe some of his tendencies and what he has liked to emphasize. I thought watching that Cincinnati Kansas City game really surprised me with what Zach Taylor was doing at the start of the game. It was like he was almost like he was playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And I think they came out of that eventually and figured it out. I don't think if they have that same kind of game plan against the Rams, I don't think that's a good idea. So yeah, you're talking about guys who know each other well, but you were talking about the same thing last week. I mean, say what you will about Sean McVay and Zach Taylor, but I guarantee you, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan know each other. Those guys are practically like brothers, growing up together in the coaching ranks. So you see that a lot these days. I mean, these coaches, even though they're rivals, even though they're at each other's throats every Sunday, they are friends and they bounce ideas off of each other. They go to these same, conferences and things like that. So there's not a whole lot of secrets. If anything, it's maybe just those little tendencies that you might pick up on. You're not. It's not like you go in going, oh, we know their playbook. We know what they're going to do. No, it's more kind of like, yeah, I think this is their tendency on third down, or this is their tendency if they have, if they're in that formation, that's probably what they like to do. So yeah, I think you can glean some little things, but I don't think anybody who thinks like, oh yeah, they've got the book on that guy. I don't think that's quite true.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, they're barbecuing in each other's backyards. It's crazy how
Exactly,
close
yeah.
he's got between LaFleur, Shanahan, Staley. It's nuts. It's a fraternity. So,
Fans don't like to hear it, but fans of the teams hate each other much,
oh
much
yeah,
more than the coaches and players do. There's much more of fraternity there than there is, among fans, obviously.
so true, so true. So, okay, on that note, let's flip to the other side of the ball. Defense. Raheem Morris, you and I both. Please stay, Raheem. You can't pass up on an opportunity, but God, we need some consistency, and you've brought it. What have you seen out of Raheem Morris? And I want to narrow it down on you, particularly to the playoff run. Have we seen a little different Raheem, or is it just me? Tell me I'm crazy. Between the season and the playoff run.
Yeah, this is one that I think is going to take some distance at the end of the season to really look back on
Okay.
and see the evolution of it. Raheem was in a tough spot, and I don't say that to excuse anything that's gone wrong, but Raheem for his whole career was a Tampa 2 guy and had great success with that, and he came into a situation where the Rams and Brandon Staley were doing something completely different and something that really, really worked. I mean, they're the number one defense in the NFL last season. I think that put Raheem in a little bit of a tough spot because he's a veteran guy. He knows what he's true to himself. He knows who he is as a coach. He's had success, but yet the Rams wanted to hold on to a lot of what made them successful last season, which why wouldn't they? That makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So I think it was in a little bit of a tough spot at the beginning of the season, trying to maybe blend those two things together and figure out kind of how his concepts or his philosophies could work in the context of what the Rams did last year and what they did so well. So I think that's probably maybe where you saw some of those inconsistencies during the season is, there were some weeks when it looked really good and there were other weeks when it looked pretty bad, to be quite honest with you. I do think in the playoffs there has been, especially the Tampa Bay game and the San Francisco game, the last two, I would look at and say, wow, they did a really good job planning against that Tampa Bay. They knew the Tampa Bay front was weak because they had some injuries there. They did a fantastic job of exploiting that with some pressures or where they lined guys up. That was so key to that game. Tom Brady just looked completely flummoxed. You don't see that from Tom Brady very often at all. And certainly that's the performance of the players. It doesn't happen without that, but it's a certain amount of scheming also. And then the San Francisco game, I mean, you look at that and the Rams had just been run over in the first two games. And you looked at that and you thought, why weren't they making adjustments? Why weren't they trying to and they did in this game against the 49ers, not for the full game because things obviously got a little hairy there for a while, but they did make those adjustments and they did take away some of the strengths of the 49ers. So I think you have seen that evolve a little bit. I think you've seen the personnel usage evolve a little bit too, as some of it has been forced. I mean, who thought that they would be playing Eric Weddle right now? Who thought Eric Weddle would even be in an NFL uniform right now? Who thought Von Miller would be on this team in the middle of the season? So I think you have to give Raheem credit for bringing in guys like that, or finding a way to bring in a guy like Nick Scott when injuries dictated it, and putting him in a position to succeed. So is it perfect? No, it's definitely not perfect. And I know there are things that they will look at in the offseason and we'll try to improve. And I think having a second year in that scheme will be critical for them. But I think Raheem's done a good job of evolving throughout the year and getting stronger rather than getting weaker. And that's really all you can ask for.
Man, bingo. I mean, I saw it myself too. Even George Kittle of the Niners said, yeah, they were doing some crazy stuff in the gaps this time around that we had not seen before.
Yeah.
And that is where people need to tip their hat to McVay and Raheem Morris, the adjustments. And I just feel like this team is a team of destiny. They've grown in the right ways. So sticking there, you kind of alluded to it. Raheem Morris, how big has Nick Scott, Traven Howard, Greg Gaines.
Yeah.
Because you can see they've drafted Ernest Jones for that, maybe more of that cover 2 in the future. He's great in coverage. He can get into that deep midsection of the field.
Right.
But this year, Nick Scott, Traven Howard, Greg Gaines.
Right.
It's nuts.
And it has to be. And this is the thing that I think people get wrong. I think Rams fans understand this better than national fans or national media sometimes even, is you look at the Rams and you think Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and those are the big guys. And you're not going to have a great team without those star players. But where you're going to win or lose the Super Bowl, or even win or even get to the Super Bowl, is with those guys that you're talking about. And I think you can track during the times when things weren't going so well. It's not because Aaron Donald wasn't playing well. It's not because Jalen Ramsey wasn't playing well, or Cooper Kupp. I mean, we could talk about Matthew Stafford. Yeah. He had some ups and downs there, but
he had a rough November.
Generally speaking, it's not your star players who are the ones who are sending you into those spirals. It's those depth guys. And people forget, what a good job the Rams have done. I mean, obviously Jordan Fuller isn't able to be a part of this because of that devastating injury, but he's another one, a 6th round pick. Traven Howard, what was he? I think he was a 6th or 7th. He was way down there. Again, Greg Gaines, Nick Scott, who even knew so that awesome. It is imperative for you to have guys like that, and to have guys along the offensive line who aren't, obviously you're going to give your big money to the left tackle, and the Rams do that with Andrew Whitworth, but you've got to have Rob Havenstein playing the way that he was playing. You got to have your interior guys. Your center has to play well. So I guess what I'm saying is it is those guys, but you always need your top guys to be your top guys. Like that can never change. But where you're going to win or lose these championships is guys coming through, and Nick Scott is a great example. I mean, this is a guy who played his way up, no roster spot guaranteed at all to begin with, and then trying to find his way on special teams to make an impact there. And then, of course, you never want to see a teammate get hurt. But when it's your opportunity, you've got to come in. And my goodness, it's every playoff game now he has made some type of impactful play, whether it was interception or obviously just rocking Deebo Samuel, or people forget before that big the 2 or 3 yard pick 6 in that game against Arizona. It was Nick Scott who made a breakup on the play right before that. To put them in that 3rd down situation. So every week, every game, he has made an impactful play. And when you have guys like that doing that, that's really what makes the difference on this team. You need Jalen Ramsey to be good every week, but when you've got a Nick Scott, or like you said, a Greg Gaines, another guy when you have those guys making impactful plays, that's really what makes the difference.
God, yeah, I tell you, if the Pro Bowl votes and all that were based just on the playoffs, Nick Scott's the best safety in football the last 3. I mean, picked off Brady. I mean, you went down a long laundry list. He reminds me of John Johnson. I mean, sometimes when he's flying around out there, Johnson kind of came up the same way there for a while. And aside from the number change, I'm like, wait a minute. It's incredible to see what Raheem has done with some of those players, Rich. And
and I'll tell you the other thing, it kind of justifies what the Rams, people going back kind of criticized the Rams too, because they didn't want to pay their safeties. And I don't know what's going on there. There's some weird thing where they are able to find these safeties. I mean, you mentioned John Johnson, Taylor Rapp has been in there. Jordan Fuller, you mentioned. I mean, they've been able to find these guys in the draft and plug them in, and it somehow works. I don't know how they do it, but it really does justify again, John Johnson, great player. I loved watching John Johnson play. But they looked at that. The Rams looked at that and said, for what we're going to have to pay John Johnson, what he's going to get on the market, we think we can go out and find a replacement. And they drafted Jordan Fuller probably with some of that in mind, and sure enough, he was able to do it. So give the Rams a lot of credit. Whoever scouts those safeties, I don't know whether it's one person or whether it's regional, but whoever does it probably deserves a raise.
We got to get them on that. That's a really good point. I mean, we didn't even bring up Terrell Burgess, who has kind of fallen off the radar, but every time he's on film, there he's making a play or a tackle. And to your point, they found a safety sitting on his couch eating Cheetos a few weeks ago named Eric Weddle, who's wearing the green dot as reported. Did you see that today?
Right.
I think you reported it.
It's remarkable. And bringing him in, after two years on his couch, I mean, that's fantastic. And for, has to be a special guy, who can come in and pick that up right away. But yeah, it speaks to the confidence that the Rams have internally, that they don't need to panic. They don't need to overpay. They don't need to make some wild trade. They have a lot of confidence in what they do and in that kind of player development. So I think it's really imperative.
It's wild, man. And so many different skill sets in that group too. Taylor Rapp comes up in the box. Terrell Burgess a little bit above. I mean, it's just amazing. Yeah. So as of the time of this recording, Tuesday night, folks that are listening or watching, any updates on injuries from your world? Higbee, Sebastian, Joseph Day, Rapp, Henderson. What do we know right now? A note boom.
Yeah. Some of these are, coach, they have to put out the injury reports every day, and they have to be truthful with them.
Truthful.
Yeah, truthful. But they aren't going to give away too much, and especially with some of these guys, I would say especially Tyler Higbee, and I would say especially maybe Daryl Henderson also, probably want to keep that a secret from the Bengals for as long as possible. Tyler Higbee, probably the most obvious one, because really is a big part of that Rams offense. And I know people who watch the Rams understand that, but doesn't get the attention that he deserves, really.
Not at all.
And you can look at what Cooper Kupp has done this year, and you look at what Odell Beckham has done over the second half of the season. But Tyler Higbee plays a big part in that. And by the way, I mean, shout out to Kendall Blanton, a guy who came in and played a fantastic game in the NFC Championship game. But Tyler Higbee's on another level. So I guess what I'm saying there is the longer that you can keep that a secret from the Bengals and whether or not he's going to be out there. But I honestly, to answer your question, I do think genuinely think that's going to be maybe even a game day decision, that weekend. It's going to be close. I mean, he's been poor Tyler Higbee. I mean, he's been getting banged up in these playoffs, and he did not look good when he was coming off the field with that particular injury. Daryl Henderson, interesting element. I saw, I was watching NFL Network a little bit. Steve Weiss, who does such a great job of covering teams out here, talking about he could bring that element. Is Daryl Henderson going to carry the ball 15 times in the Super Bowl? No, absolutely not. But if you can put him out there and make the Bengals think about him a little bit, what's that guy gonna do? What's he doing over there? When they haven't seen that on film, and they haven't seen it on film with the other two running backs. There has not been a game where the Rams have had Cam Akers, Sony Michel, and Daryl Henderson, I don't believe, unless I'm missing one there.
I think you're right.
Because Cam got hurt in training camp. So so there's no film on that. There's no film for what a Rams offense looks like if all three of those guys are available. So that looks possible. I would put him as more probable than Daryl Henderson. Taylor Rapp looks like things are going, real scary thing there. It's concussions, and he's young too. Young, and boy, when a guy misses 3 games like that, I'm not trying to speculate. I'm not reading anything into it, but when somebody misses 3 games, that's a long time. So it was encouraging, just on a human level, to see that he was able to get back. So I would think as long as he's able to fully practice over these next couple of days, then he should be good to go. So that's good. When Sebastian Joseph Day, not sure there. Again, that's probably going to be how he progresses, during this week. So yeah, all this, adding a 17th game and pushing the Super Bowl back a week, really did the Rams some favors here, because there's a couple of guys there who probably wouldn't be playing right now if the Super Bowl had been last Sunday. So
yeah, good points. So before I get into what you think are the keys to the win and your final prediction, give me a player, an underrated player, any side of the ball, special teams even, that you think we should keep our eye on. He makes a big play, or just this is a wild Rich Hammond projection here.
Yeah, I mean,
I got my own, by the way.
Okay, good. I want to hear yours. I look at it, and from the Rams' perspective, I'm assuming you would say a Rams player. So when I look at it from Cincinnati's perspective, I say, what's the one thing? When I get to Monday morning, okay, if I'm the Bengals, what's the one thing that I don't want to look back on and say, how did that happen? And the one thing that I would say is getting beat by Cooper Kupp. You don't want to get to the day after the Super Bowl and say, how in the world, knowing what we know and having watched this guy, dominate every team, how in the world did we let Cooper Kupp beat us? So I think that's where the focus is going to be. That doesn't mean they're going to succeed. But I think that's where the focus is going to be. So to answer your question, I would say Van Jefferson, because I think if they really try to clamp down on Cooper Kupp, and if they do find some success, yes, Odell Beckham is a guy who has shown that he can handle volume also, and that he can produce well. But Van Jefferson is a guy who has that big play. It might not be 6 catches for 90 yards, but it might be one critical play during the game where they're able to find him down the field. If they're trying to double Cooper Kupp, or if the safety cheats over a little bit and tries to take him away, Van Jefferson can get down the field and make a play. So just based on how I think Cincinnati will try to defend the game, I say Van Jefferson has a chance. What's yours?
Love it, man. Love it. Well, mine's more of a wild prediction. I'm gonna give it to you here in a minute, but I'm gonna blindside you with a crazy question. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy and settled is Deshaun Jackson this week?
Yeah, boy. I hope he's well, look, I mean, things happen. People, I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, I don't know, and it's not a personal critique of Deshaun Jackson, but I don't know what he was expecting. Yeah. I don't know what he thought was going to happen on this team. I mean, he was brought in as a guy who, was not able to stay on the field in the previous years. He knew he wasn't going to be ahead of Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods in this offense. If he did, I don't know what he was thinking. So I'm not really sure where his frustration came in. I have to think that the Rams were pretty clear with him about what his role was going to be, and he could have been effective in that role. It doesn't know, Deshaun, you're not going to get 10 targets or whatever in this offense, but you can still be an effective player in this offense. Again, I'm not going to judge him. I don't know what conversations went on, but yeah, I have to think he would like to be here if he had another shot at it.
I'm just showing my mushy side, Rich. I mean, it's like the Jared Goff conversation. I really like these guys. I think they're good for the community. And Deshaun, This is your hometown. What a great thing this would have been. So,
yeah, it would have been fantastic.
It's a bummer, but best wishes to him. Big fan of his too. Okay, keys to this game for our Rams to win this, Rich. What are the keys?
Well, it's always going to start with Matthew Stafford, and I've said it from the beginning of the season. We've said it on our podcast. I mean, this season, ultimately, say what you want about the Rams defense or anybody else, it was going to rise and fall on what Matthew Stafford could do. And in the playoffs, you've seen him by and large, not every quarter, not every series, but he's risen to the moment. And you haven't heard any more questions about, can Matthew Stafford win a playoff game, or can Matthew Stafford be a Super Bowl quarterback? He has risen to the occasion on every opportunity. But that has to continue for one more game. He cannot turn the ball over. He cannot he cannot get the Rams in a big hole in this game by his own doing. It's not always his own doing, but he can't be a big contributor to that. I think that's really where it starts. If he can be, and here's the thing, Stacey, about him is I don't think Matthew Stafford has that ability in him to be the hero, right? Which is one of the things that I think elevates him over a lot of quarterbacks. He can put the team on his back. He can lead you there, but he doesn't have to on this offense. And I think that's sometimes he gets out a little bit over his skis in terms of like, I need to make the hero throw here. I need to do something right. No. If the Rams offense is running the way that it's supposed to, and a large part it does. He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to get out ahead of himself. This isn't Detroit. No, sorry, Lions fans, if you might be listening, but this isn't the Detroit Lions. He doesn't need to go out there every quarter, every drive, and win the game himself. And I think if he can play within himself and he can be smart with the ball, I really think that's where it starts, because that's been the case throughout these playoffs. Other side of the ball, you've got to get to Joe Burrow. And you've got to limit some of those plays that he's able to make. I mean, he's not in the category of a Patrick Mahomes in terms of extending plays with his legs, but he can, and he's got great instincts for that sort of thing. So you can't, if you've got him in your sight, if you've got him within arm's reach, you've got to be able to bring him down. You've got to be able to put pressure on him. You can't let him get out there and find those guys in space. They've got so many weapons who can, Joe Mixon or all the Chase who they just drafted. I mean, they've got guys. If things break down and they're able to find some open space, they will hurt you. So getting to Joe Burrow, wrapping up those guys if they do get the ball in space. I mean, I think it's pretty fundamental stuff. Stacey is what I would say. I don't think the Rams have to do a lot special in this game. I don't think that it's oh my gosh, they need to play better than they've ever played, or they need to be perfect. I don't think that's the case, and I'm not disparaging the Bengals in any way that I say that. I just think that when the Rams get off track, a lot of times they get in their own way. And if they can limit those mistakes, limit those turnovers, then they're going to put themselves in a position to win.
I couldn't agree more, man. That's a great take. And it's almost like with Stafford, it took him a season to realize I don't have to carry this team. Look around me. I've got incredible teammates here. Yeah. And again, not disparaging the Lions. I'm rooting for that franchise.
It's just the reality of it.
It's just the reality. It's just a really talented roster. So, okay, as we close out before our 2-minute drill, give me a prediction on the score and your MVP, and then I'm going to give you my wild one.
Okay, great. Yeah, here's how I've put it. I think if you play this game 50 times, the Rams win the majority of them. The Rams probably win 30. The problem for the Rams is they're only playing it once. So a lot of things can go wrong in one game. I think the Rams are the better team. I think the matchups favor the Rams. I do think it'll be close. I tend to think it'll be low scoring. And I don't know, maybe I was just, before I got on with you, I was just watching a little breakdown of that Bengals defense, and maybe it got into my head a little bit.
They're better than people think.
What they've been able to do in the playoffs. I see it. I'm going to say maybe Rams 24-21. I mean, that's not real low scoring. Okay. That's not, Rams Patriots from 3 years ago. I don't think it'll get that low scoring. But I see, I think if either team can get to 24, I think that might do it. So I think that's it. And I think if the Rams win a game like that, if it's a 20, I'm talking myself into something here. So if it's a 24-21 game, then you very well could see Aaron Donald as the MVP of this game. I mean, if it's Rams, 35-31 or something like that, and Matthew Stafford is thrown for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, all right, then that's probably a Matthew Stafford MVP if they win that game. But if it's lower scoring, like I think, then that probably means they're putting some pressure on Joe Burrow, and by extension, that probably means Aaron Donald is wrecking some havoc. So I'll follow up and say Aaron Donald.
Oh man, I love that prediction. Damn it, Rich, you stole my thunder.
Sorry about that.
So no, my crazy prediction is I think the Rams roll in this. I think it's 38-17. And I think Aaron Donald is the MVP. And not only do I think number 99 is the MVP, I think 99 scores a touchdown in this game.
Oh, on offense or defense? Is he going to do like a refrigerator Perry, or is he going to?
Yeah, I've wanted that for years. I just don't know that. I've got a second prediction on that note. I'll bounce off you here. But okay. I think that Aaron Donald gets a strip sack. I think number 99 cements himself in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor as the greatest.
Quite a Super Bowl moment, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, I got goosebumps talking about it because I love that guy. But I think that's your MVP. I think it's an incredible moment in Los Angeles history. Now, with a blowout, I think we could see something special from McVay here. I think he goes with an extra offensive lineman if he gets on the goal line. and number 77 scores a touchdown.
Oh, there you go. Or or a tackle eligible.
Eligible.
Throw him, do a bootleg and throw him a touchdown or something like that. Boy, what a yeah, we didn't even talk about it, but boy, can you imagine what Andrew Whitworth is going through this week? I mean,
story.
His whole career. Well, it's been 5 years since he's been in LA now, but so much of his life in Cincinnati, and then this. I don't know what his plans are, but either way, it's not a bad way to go out. To be able to get to the Super Bowl and to have your entire NFL career right there, Cincinnati and LA. Must be a tremendous week for him.
So special, man. Yeah, there's storylines in this game between Weddle and Whitworth and McVay, the youngest coach. We could spend 2 hours here together, and I won't put you through that. That's not fun. But I think it would be absolutely phenomenal if McVay finds a way to make that happen. And again, we'll see. It all depends. Contingent on that score, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so with every guest, we roll into what we call the 2-minute drill. It is all about getting to know our guest, Mr. Rich Hammond. I know there are plenty of tweeters. Be nice, people.
They're always nice.
They're always nice. The battle scars are covered by that sweater. But it's all about getting to know you. So I'm going to rapid fire a few questions at you.
Okay.
So 2-minute drill: enchiladas or tamales?
Okay, this is a good question. Tamales to me, because tamales to me, and I don't want to say they become seasonal, but like tamales are our Christmas Eve dinner, right? So like I have now come to think of tamales as like November comes around and it's like it's tamale season, and I love tamales. But enchiladas, you give me an enchilada plate with the right kind of sauce on it. Like I'll eat that any day of the week, January through December. So I guess I'd have to say enchiladas for normal time.
11 months out of the year, he's an enchilada man.
You go.
Got it. Okay, I'm right there with you. I like them both. I love them. Okay, your go-to game day adult beverage if you have one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it I'm working, so it's you generally don't get to until after the game. But if it's just something that I'm watching or something else, I would say beer if it's a sports event, and I would say a nice IPA if I can get my hands on one.
We got to get you up here to Portland, man.
Oh yeah,
awesome. A lot of IPA. I love all that. Yeah, keep you.
We've got a thriving little scene down here, but nothing like what's going on up there.
Yeah. I know that. I'm in the coffee industry outside of this, and there's a big craft community down there. Okay, halftime. We're going to learn a lot about you here, man.
Okay,
I'd love to see Jordan's face when I ask this one. Halftime shows: Prince or Beyonce?
Oh yeah, that's tough. I've got a little bit of a bias here just because I'm an 80s kid. So like Prince, I mean, and it's iconic. We were actually just a friend and I were actually just talking about this on Saturday. We were looking forward to Sunday's halftime show with all of those amazing artists, and we were running through the best ones ever. And I'm like, man, I don't know whether you can top Prince like that. Not just the performance, but it's raining and he's singing Purple Rain. Like, come on. Like
those boots dancing, like
I mean, she's an amazing performer, but again, a couple of my 80s bias with just that whole scene from that halftime show, and I'd have to go Prince.
Okay. Man, I'm an 80s kid too. So
there you go.
Brutal. Okay. I'll try to narrow these down as this 2 minutes is streaming into 3, but
sorry, I give too long answers. I'm like Sean McVay.
I love it. You're drafted by the Rams. What position are you playing? What's your number?
Right now? I think I'd have to be a long snapper. I don't think I in my younger days, let's see, what would I think I'd like to be a linebacker. That seems like it would be a lot of fun. You wouldn't get to you're the one delivering the hits instead of taking them, and you kind of get to you get to play depending on what position or what scheme, you can be all over the field. So linebacker number something in the 40s, maybe like 40. 48's a good number. Who's that? Is that Trayvon Howard's? No, he used to be 48. He's 32 now. Yeah,
he's 32 now.
Yeah,
right.
48. I'll go with 48.
Wow, man, I'm impressed. God, that was a telling answer. A linebacker, Rich Hammond, folks, linebacker. I
Yeah, I
love
don't want to
that.
get hit. That's
He
not
wants to lay the
that seems like a
lumber.
bad idea. Yeah, yeah.
I like it. I like it. Okay, Derrick Henry's coming through the A gap. Good luck.
All right,
All
all right.
right.
Maybe an outside
Maybe I'll
linebacker.
go special teams gunner.
Pass edge
Okay.
rusher. Yeah.
All right. We'll flip to entertainment as we close this things out real quick. And I never know this about my guests for those watching, listening. The Office, Parks and Recreation, or Seinfeld?
Okay. If I could call an audible and say the UK Office, that would be my pick. But
oh god, Ricky Gervais, it's epic.
yeah, it's fantastic. But let's keep it to your. I'm not. If all three of those are on and reruns, and I have to pick one, I'm probably going to put Seinfeld on. Just
I had a feeling, man.
Yeah, I think, and I like those other shows, but just if I see a random episode, like I'm more likely to be pulled in by a random Seinfeld episode than I am one of those other two. So. That's how I'll answer that.
Fair. We see that wit and those tweets, my friend, on Sunday. Okay, yeah. Movies. This is. I think we're Gen X, you and I, but we're gonna go millennial here. Anchorman, Step Brothers, or Talladega Nights. All Will Ferrell, another USC guy, right?
Yes, USC alum. Yeah, okay. Big. He'll probably be back around now more. He's been a little quiet the last couple of years, but I have a feeling we'll be seeing him a little bit more around there. It's got to be Anchorman. I like the. I like the Step Brothers is great. I get a lot of laughs out of that. But Anchorman is just such a classic. Like you talk about movies that you quote or that you meme more frequently. Like I love that. I throw old school in there too. I love old school. But Anchorman is a classic. That's one of those that if it's on, if I'm scrolling through and I see it somewhere, I'm gonna have to watch it.
90% of the time, you watch it all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, man. True media guy.
There you go.
Hey, I cannot thank you enough. This has been a pleasure. Rich Hammond, ladies and gentlemen, for those watching and listening. If you're not following Rich, what's wrong with you? You can follow Rich on the 11 Personnel podcast with the fantastic Jordan Rodriguez on all the major podcast sites. Of course, he's on Twitter at Rich_Hammond. Where else can we find you with The Athletic?
That's enough, isn't it? People get enough of me just with those. You don't need any more me. No, it's thanks for giving the shout out to Jordan. I mean, just some extraordinary stuff. I mean, I've kind of retired from the day-to-day stuff of that, but boy, I couldn't have handed it off to any better of a writer, reporter, person than Jordan. And she sent me one of the stories. I don't know when it's running. It might be running Thursday. It's like. I understand I work for the website. They pay me, but you're going to want to read it all about the team build. And I told her when I messaged her back, I said, this could be the framework of a book, if people wanted to write about, how this Rams team has been constructed. Anyway, follow Jordan at Jordan Rodriguez. She does an amazing job. I appreciate it. I have so much fun. I hope people don't take it too seriously. Sometimes I wonder how much people understand that a lot of it is tongue in cheek.
We do.
But it's when you're that into the bit, you can't give up the bit anymore. So I'm stuck with it, I guess. But thanks everybody. Thanks Stacy for all the kind things that you always say on Twitter and the supports and the retweets and all that. It's been a lot of fun, Rams fans. I wish you well, wish you luck on Sunday, and I'll be there for you on Sunday, win or lose, to vent and to hopefully have some laughs. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. And listen, you're the go-to in the Ram community. What you and Jordan are doing, great chemistry and teamwork with you two. We all know it's jokes, but the knowledge you guys bring and some of the inside stuff, man, we hang on it. So thank you to the great Rich Hammond. He will not be drinking an IPA during the game. However, afterwards, join him. Let's all celebrate a Rams win for the city of Los Angeles and Rams fans everywhere. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Thank you.